नो भगवतो सावक संगो न्यायपटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो सामीचि पटिपन्नो भगवतो सावक संगो यदिदं चत्तारि पुरिस युगानि अट्टपुरिस पुद्गल ऐसा भगवतो सावक संगो आहुनेयो बाहुनेयो दक्षिणेयो अंजलिकरणीयो अनुत्तरं पुण्यकेतं लोकस्ताति नमो दस अट्ट अर्य पुद्गला महासंगसा ये च संगा अतीता च ये च संगा अनागता पच्युपन्ना च ये संगा अहं वन्दामि सर्वदा नत्ति मे शरणं गम्यं संगो मे शरणं वरं ये तेन सच्चवज्जेन होतु मे जयमङ्गलम् उत्तमङ्गेन वन्देऽहं संगं च विदुत्तमं संगेयो कलितो दोषो संगो कमतु तं मम संगं यावनिर्वाण पर्यन्तं शरणं गच्छामि विपत्ति पटिवाहाय सब्ब संपत्ति सिद्धिया सब्ब दुःखं विनाशाय सब्ब भयं विनाशाय सब्ब रोगं विनाशाय भवे दीर्घायुपदायक सब्ब लोकं हितत्ताय परितं तं वनामहे समन्ता चक्रवालेषु अत्रा गच्छन्तु देवता तद्धम्मं मुनिराजस्सा सुनन्तु सर्गमोक्तदम् धम्म सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता धम्म सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता परित सवन कालो अयं बदन्ता नमो तस्स भगवतो अरहतो सम्मा सम्बुद्धस्सा यानि दभूतानि समागतानि बुम्मानि वायानि व अन्तलिक्ये सब्बेव भूता सुमना भवन्तु अतोऽपि सक्कच्च सुनन्तु भासितं तस्माहि भूतानि समेत सब्बे मत्तं करोत मानुषिया पजाया दिवाचरतो च हरन्ति ये बलिं तस्माहि नेरक्षत अपमत्ता यङ्किञ्चि वित्तं इदबाहुरं वा सज्ञेषु वायं रतनं पणीतं ननो समं अत्ति तथागतेन इदंपि बुद्धे रतनं पणीतं येतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु अयं विरागं अमतं पणीतं यदज्जगासख्यमुनि समाहितो न तेन धम्मेन समत्ति किञ्चित् इदंपि धम्मे रतनं पणीतं येतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु यं बुद्धसेट्टो परिवर्णयि शुचिं समाधिमानन्तरिकन्यमाहु समाधिनाथेन समो न विद्यति इदंपि धम्मे रतनं पणीतं येतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु ये पुग्गला अट्टशतंपसत्ता चत्तारि एतानि युगानि भुन्ति ते दक्षिणय्या सुगतस्य सावका ये तेषु दिन्नानि महत्फलानि इदंपि संगे रतनं पणीतं एतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु ये सुपयुक्ता मनसा दलेन निक्कामिनो गौतमशासनं हि ते पत्तिपत्ता अमतं विगाय श्रद्धामुदा निवृत्तिं गुञ्जमाना इदंपि संगे रतनं पणीतं एतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु यतीन्द्रकीलो पटविंसितोऽसि या चतुर्विवाते असम्पकम्पियो तथोपमं सपुरुषं वदामि यो अर्यसच्चानि अवेच्च पश्यति इदंपि संगे रतनं पणीतं एतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु ये अर्य सच्चानि विभावयन्ति गंभीरपन्नेन सुदेशितानि किंचापि ते हुन्ति भूसप्पमत्ता न ते भवं अट्टमं आदियन्ति इदंपि संगे रतनं पणीतं एतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु सहावत्सदस्सन संपदाया तयस्सु धम्मा जहिता भवन्ति सक्काय दिट्ठि विचिकित्सितं चासि लब्धतं वापि यदात्ति किञ्चित् चतुःपाये हि च विप्रमुक्तो चाभिधानानि अबाभ्वखातुम् इदंपि संगे रतनं पणीतं एतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु किंचापि शोकं करोति पापकं कायेन वाचा उदचेतसा वा अबभ्वसोतस्य पटिच्छदाया अबभ्वतादित्यपदस्य उत्ता इदंपि संगे रतनं पणीतं एतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु वनप्पगुम्बे यथापुसितज्ञे गिम्हानमासे पटमस्मिन् गिम्हे तथोपमं धम्मवरं अदेशयि निब्बानगामिं परमं हिताय इदंपि बुद्धे रतनं पणीतं एतेन सच्चेन सुवत्ति होतु Varo Varanyo Varado Varaharo Anuttaro Dhamma Varang Adesai Idampi Buddhe Ratanang Panitang Etena Satchena Suvatti Hotu Hinang Puranang Navamratti Sampavang Viratta Chitta Ayatike Bhavasming Te Kina Bija Avirulli Chanda Nibbanti Dira Tatayang Padipo Idampi Sange Ratanang Panitang Etena Satchen Suvatti Hotu Yani Dabutani Samagatani Bummani Vayani Antalikke Tatagatan Deva Manussa Pujitang Buddhang Namassama Suvatti Hotu Yani Dabutani Samagatani Bummani Vayani Antalikke Tatagatan Deva Manussa Pujitang Dhammang Namassama Suvatti Hotu Yani Dabutani Samagatani Bummani Vayani Antalikke Tatagatam Deva Manussa Pujitam Sangam Namassama Suvatti Hoto Yetena Satchavajjena Sukino Hotu Sabbada Yetena Satchavajjena Bhutno Jayamangalam Yetena Satchavajjena Bhatno Ratanatayam Sabityo Vivajjantu Sabbarogo Vinassatu Mate Bhavatantarayo Sukhi Gayu Bhava Bhavatu Sabba Mangalam Rakkantu Sabba Devata Sabba Buddhanubhavena Sabba Dhammanubhavena Sabba Sanghanubhavena Tadaswati Bhavantu Te Imina Punyakam Ina Mame Bala Samagamo Satan Samagamo Hotu Yavanipana Pattiya Idam Me Punyakam Asava Payangvam Hotu Sabba Dukka Pamuchatu Nibbana Sampachayo Hotu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So today's chanting is, of course, many of you know, this is Ratana Sutta. Ratana means like, so it's all the same meaning. The meaning is jump. Ratna is jump. The three Ratnas, the three gems, the triple gem. It is just remembering the qualities of the triple gem and having faith in this triple gem. So what is this triple gem? This Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. What this represents, what this triple gem represents, why we should take refuge and why we should have faith in this. Not to become, say, some kind of blindly, my master said, or some monk said, or some master said, so I should take refuge in triple gem. No, of course, very faith to some extent temporarily it will say melt, or it will dissolve our ego, because then you say surrender. So by faith you just surrender to that particular thing. Here it is the triple gem. So when somebody asks you to surrender to this triple gem, so that very surrendering will make you to get some inner happiness, because that strong I-ness and minus, you will just keep it aside. You'll just go down. You just let go this I and me, this I-ness and minus, and that gives you some inner happiness, definitely. That is the prime reason why in all religions they enforce surrendering. They compel the followers to surrender to the higher will, or the teachers, or the representatives of that religion, or the founders of that religion. So that's how, of course, the followers also will get some kind of inner happiness, because when ego is there, all complications will start. But I-ness and minus is there, all aggressiveness, all worry, all fears, all hatred, all greed, all ignorance also will start with that ego. So to subdue that ego, to annihilate or to reduce, to mitigate or to dissolve it to some extent, it will help, no doubt. But there is one more aspect in our mind. So it's not just submitting our ego, our will. to one superior will. So our analytical mind or our calculating mind, it will start calculating, it will start judging, it will start analyzing. So why should we submit our will or surrender our will? So then for some kind of people they develop some fear also. When my will is subdued or surrendered, then they feel that say they are nothing, they are extinct, and they may develop some kind of psychological problems also. Especially in this modern generation, when the people are so much independent, so much self-dependent, so much they think that they can handle the world, they are quite smart and quite say, skillful in handling the world. For such people, this submitting the will to an superior will or higher will, whether it is there or not there, with a doubt, that will be very, very difficult for some of them. For some of them, it will be very easy and they'll derive a lot of inner happiness. So it depends on the temperaments of the people. So here, why I have to introduce this faith and submitting one's will. Here, of course, you have to submit your will and you should derive that inner happiness of letting go of the ego. And in addition to that, you should have the wisdom that you are submitting yourself to one superior wisdom, one very authoritative path, one authoritative goal, one authoritative, representatives of this path and this goal. So that clarity, if you have, that whether you are, say, logical-minded person, whether you are, devotional person, whether you are a simple man, whether you are a complicated man. So this understanding of why I am submitting my will to this higher will, the higher will, how superior it is, how authoritative it is, how perfect it is. If that understanding is there, then submitting your will to that superior will not become a problem for any kind of person, for any kind of temperament. So because of that reason, again and again in all our discourses, I give some importance to this will and the submitting the will and how much have faith in joyfully or mindfully or say without any hesitation, without any doubt, submitting one's will or taking refuge or surrendering to this higher path, to this higher goal, to this higher wisdom, where you don't lose anything, where you derive so many things that will help you in all aspects, that will help you to get inner peace, that will help you to get intelligence, that will help you to get sharpness, that will help you to get health, happiness, for everything. This is very, very first step. In almost all discourses, Buddha has emphasized the importance of giving up the too rigid attachment to I-ness and minus, that attachment to ego, and simply multiplying one's own problems with that attachment to the ego. Once, if you give it up, understanding which is superior to this very mean ego that I am carrying, that I am getting attached, that I am so rigidly attached to, if I give it up and if I submit myself, I surrender to this higher purpose, to this higher goals, to this higher path, then it is helpful to me, it is beneficial to me in all aspects. If that clarity if you get, then the journey becomes very easy, it becomes very pleasant, then it will become very, very, say, joyful, authoritative, and it becomes very pleasant, and then you don't take off track, you will not you will not be misled, you will not be misled by any other wrong views. So that is the very purpose of taking refuge in these three jumps, this triple jump, Buddha, Dhamma. Of course, all these things, it's not just like converting a person from one belief to another belief, no. One faith to another faith, no. It is again to say, take them into the right track of authoritative goal, authoritative path, where the beginning is pleasant, where the journey is pleasant and the end is also pleasant. To inculcate that right view authoritatively, strong will, even for the most say innocent minds, the most humble minds, and also the most wise minds. This faith, submitting one's own strong attachment to this highness and minus, is very, very important. You should keep it aside for some time and you should develop that faith and that submission. Then you will get the inner happiness, and at the same time, the mind also will open up and you can start learning the right view authoritatively. So that is the main reason. So we have to develop this strong faith, understanding this triple jump thoroughly. Why I am submitting this to these three jumps, what these things represent, in what way it will purify my mind, my defilements, how it can remove. So if these things are clear in you, then submitting your rigid ego or highness and minus will not be a problem. So that is the main reason why, of course, in all religions they emphasize on this, but here Buddha emphasizes these things of submitting one's own will or having strong faith with understanding, with clarity, with right view. With some right view, if you submit your will, then you develop more right view, more understanding, more openness, more learning, more authoritativeness. That way, faith and understanding, they should go together. Sometimes understanding is lacking, then it's okay. Put forth the faith and start progressing. Then automatically understanding will come out. Understanding will develop in you. If the faith is lacking and if understanding becomes too much, then go ahead with better understanding. Don't hesitate to develop understanding. If the understanding becomes correct, proper, wholesome, then your faith also will increase. So that way, for some people, faith will be the trigger to develop understanding. For some people, understanding will be the trigger to develop more faith. Both these things will develop. So the right view, and we'll start getting the right benefits, and then you will not fall aside. You will not go off track. You will stick on to the path with more understanding, with more conviction, with more confidence and conviction. Then the journey becomes more authoritative, more safe, more committed, and of course, because of these things, more joy, more happiness also start deriving. Not only the end is more pleasant, more happy, more joyful. So even the path should be joyful. Even the path should be pleasant, and even the path one should enjoy. Then only you will reach that happy end. Okay. So in that way, to make the entire journey more authoritative, more say joyful, having faith and submitting our will to this more authoritative will, which is represented by this Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, is very, very crucial, very, very important for anyone, because nobody is absolutely perfect. Nobody is arahant. Nobody is enlightened. Everybody has some degree of ignorance, some degree of confusion, some degree of doubt, some degree of dullness. So this faith, it gives that inner energy to let go that ego-based ignorance, ego-based illness. Then automatically we will start connecting to this higher wisdom, which is represented by Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Then slowly, your mind also will start absorbing that higher wisdom, and you start getting the glimpses of the light, the glimpses of the enlightenment, the glimpses of the wisdom. So in that way, don't keep aside the power of faith, the power of this true faith, the right confidence, the right faith. So, because all these three things represent only enlightenment, the Dhamma and Sangha, they represent enlightenment. Buddha is the goal, Dhamma is the ways and means to reach that goal. And Sangha is the moral support to take up that path, to take up that means and ways and means, and to reach the goal that is Bodhi, Buddhatva. That way, to understand how these three things are connected and what these three things represent. The goal of enlightenment, the ways and means, and the path of enlightenment, and the moral support to reach this goal through this path, right path, is Sangha. So these three things, they just represent the three phases, the three dimensions of enlightenment. That's all. So if that understanding you have, then nobody can stop you to take up this path authoritatively and to reach the goal that these three things represent. Okay, so that's what is the beauty of this right faith. Again, in this sutra, this Ratana Sutta, Buddha explains the greatness, the authoritativeness, and the perfectness of these three Ratnas, Buddha, Sangha. And once people understand this and surrender to these three Ratnas, then they will be free from even the natural calamities. They will not be affected by the natural calamities, and they can protect themselves from the natural calamities. So that is the power of these three gems, three Ratanas. In that way, this has been taught, this has been chanted from the time of Buddha. So of course the background story also many of you know, like when there was famine, when there was one epidemic outbreak, just like even today this pandemic outbreak we have. During that time there was an epidemic outbreak in a place called Vaishali. Let us say the northern Bihar, the present northern Bihar. So there, by chanting this, so by reassuring this, the power of Buddha Dhamma, and the people developing inclination towards enlightenment, inclination towards liberation, not too obsessed with the sensuality and the materiality. So working on the mind, liberating the mind, purifying the mind, so it will actually divert your temperament, divert your inclinations, your priorities. So working on the mind, purifying the mind, liberating the mind, that is the right spirit of living, proper living, happy living. For superior living, for happy living, the life should be prioritized. Our life should be prioritized towards this mind purification. Simply struggling to get the worldly things, materialistic things, and seeking pleasure only in the materialistic things, that will attract a lot of problems. It will attract problems from the people, problems from the nature also. If you are too much materialistic, too much sensual oriented, too much body oriented, then you attract problems from every corner of the world. From people, from animals, from kings, from successors, from friends also sometimes, many times rather. The competition, the jealousy, everything will simply trouble you, will simply harass you, will simply torture you. But once you start learning how to derive happiness from purifying the mind, from liberating the mind, by correctly connecting to this proper path of mind purification, which is represented by Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, then even you will be protected by the nature, you will be safeguarded by the natural calamities, definitely will be safeguarded by people also, by everyone, by all kinds of people, you will be protected. So that is the message here. That is the key takeaway in all these chantings, in all these faith-inducing chantings, the right faith-inducing chantings. The message is just not being only using the intellect, using all your intellectual powers to safeguard the body, to protect the body, to get the essential pleasures more and more If that has become your first priority, then definitely that is not wisdom. Of course, bodily pleasures, bodily sensual pleasures, to some extent, moderately one should have it. But one should correctly prioritize what is first, what is second, what is third. In that path of prioritization, the first point of the first preference is working on the mind and purifying the mind and derive the happiness from within, from the mind itself, from the pure mind itself. If that idea people get, then they are into Dhamma. They are into the right track. If they miss that, then they will be confused. They get kicked by the world in several ways. So that is the point in this Ratana Sutta. And so the qualities of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, and the powers of Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha are highlighted in this Ratana Sutta. And by understanding the powers, by understanding the benefits, powers of the sense, like by surrendering to them, what benefits I'll get. If that is there in your mind, then definitely it is powerful. Definitely you can surrender. You can submit your mean egos to this very, very powerful wisdom. And based on this wisdom, one can derive the inner happiness, inner peace, the right health, both mental health and physical health. And one can progress in this path of mind purification and liberation. So that is the intent of discussing this. The meaning, of course, many of you know, like how Buddha is so special and how he could discover the Four Noble Truths and the middle path, and how they are so authoritative knowledge that by learning, by listening to the knowledge, how millions and billions of beings, people, divine beings, they get liberated from the clutches, from the bindings, from the bondage of this body and mind, from these repeated births, and how they could derive the absolute happiness, and how these different teachings are so authoritative that will liberate you, and how these different people, the disciples, the lay disciples or the monastic disciples, after following these teachings and following with the, how they could correctly absorb, correctly understand this path, and how they could correctly practice, how they could liberate. So that's what is highlighted in this Ratana Sutta. Okay, that way, having this faith in this path, right view, these three things, how they represent right view, and how one should slowly, if there is some, the mind is not very sharp to understand, no problem. Submit your will. So many people, so many masters are highlighting this. Let me submit my will and let me start learning this. Then slowly, my wisdom may open up, my understanding may develop. So that confidence, that is the right. Okay. So that is about today's chanting. Now, as it is mentioned in your WhatsApp messages, of course, yeah. So today's topic is it's all about two wrong views represented by two powerful people during the time of Buddha. There's so many sects, so many powerful people. They're worldly powerful, and of course they had some spiritual powers also. So because they were in some spiritual movements and spiritual organizations, spiritual sects, different kinds of sects, they were there, and many people. But of course they were having the wrong views. Having some wrong views, they had some powers amidst the ordinary people, because they have developed their minds to some extent. But it was not complete. Buddha's mission is to help them, those who have reached some stage, but they were stuck there. After that, they could not progress. So Buddha helped so many people. So, though they were thinking that they are religiously, also they are supreme, and even the kings, people, millionaires, all supporters, they were thinking they were very, very say spiritually superior, but they knew that they were not spiritually superior. They were stuck somewhere, and they knew that, but they were not getting the right teachings or the right master to take them above their level, to push them or to pull them beyond that level. There were no masters, there were no supporters, there were no say the religious organizations, so they were stuck. And Buddha usually in his early morning meditation used to find out such kind of people who are stuck and who are so eager, the seekers, who are interested in going beyond that. Just like in the last Sunday talk, but Jyotipala, young boy, though he was a wise and he was having some maturity in spiritual growth, but he was stuck at one level and he was looking for something beyond. But he was not sure that who is the right master. Many people, many of you, many of our coordinators and our senior meditators, sometimes they ask this kind of questions. Even I had this problem long back, 1 or 2 decades back. And after practicing a few things, then what next? Who can help me to go in that way? Many people have that problem. Like in some time back, I discussed about the King Milinda and Nagasena. So Nagasena also, she has learned so many things from so many other masters, and she found that it's not of much use. It's all like shaft. There's no worth in it. There is no essence which will help me, which will liberate me. Then after learning these 4 noble truths and the moderation, the middle path, and the different techniques that will help in mind purification, he developed the right view and he became a great master who could help others, could help the kings like Mahinda, this King Milinda. The same way this Jyotipala, he could, with the help of his friend Gatikara, he could meet Supreme Buddha, Kassapa, and she could understand the right view and the perfect view to develop the mind and to liberate the mind. The same way, today in this today's discourse, Sonadanda and Kutadanta, they were also wise people, but they were stuck in these materialistic things. And the people also, they were simply prizing them. Oh, you are so great, you have this ability, you have this quality, that quality. And they were stuck in that, and they were thinking that they have reached almost some level of enlightenment. Deep inside, though, they knew that they have not reached that enlightenment. This kind of stories you can see in the scriptures, so many stories. I can give you hundreds of stories like this. But today, I have taken the stories of these 2, wise men, Kutadanta and this Sonadanda. Why I have selected these 2? Almost the background is almost same for these 2 stories, for these 2 people. They were actually supported by the King Bimbisara, the Magadhan king, the Pataliputra, Patna, today's Patna. So that was the capital of this Magadha Empire. So the Patna and parts of UP and parts of maybe MP also, they were under this Jharkhand, under this Magadhan Empire. And the capital was Pataliputra, the present day Patna, and it was ruled by that time King Bimbisara. And this King Bimbisara used to support a lot of religious people. And these two people, this Kutadanta and this Sonadanda, they were supported by this King Bimbisara. They were given some small, say, a group of villages who used to support him and their teachings and their centers. And people used to revere and respect them to a great extent, both of them. And people have some blind belief in both of them. And they were having so many other qualities, the materialistic qualities, the worldly qualities also, they were quite superior. And of course, it's all because of their wholesome actions, their merits, their punya that they had accrued in their previous lives. And still, they were imperfect. They were stuck at one level of mind purification. Of course, it is not a very authoritative level of mind purity that they knew. And then they could approach Buddha and they could learn from Buddha and they could come out of the trap. Even too much prizing, too much say attachment to worldliness, worldly powers, worldly prize, worldly positions, that will again make you not to progress further. That's what happened with these two gentlemen, this Kutadanta and Sonadanda. So now we will see what is the background of these two gentlemen, and then what are the two wrong views that are removed by these two gentlemen after meeting Buddha, and how they become, how they develop the right confidence, right faith in this Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and how they took refuge in this Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, and how they could become the enlightened people. That's what we will see in today's discourse. First, coming to this Sonadanda, and as I told you, he was supported by this King Bimbisara in a place. He was residing in a place. Again, of course, in a place called, it was a small empire called Anga. Again, it's Bihar, the northeastern part of Bihar, I think. And of course, the geography and all, let us not bother. There was a place called Champa, and so he heard that Lord Buddha has visited his city, that is Champa. And some people started prizing his perfect one, and he is fully awakened, he is accomplished in knowledge and conduct. We are going to see him, and we wanted to take his blessing. So we are going in that way. Some people told this Sonadanda. So Sonadanda was he was also residing in Champa. For some reason, he was there in Champa, and he also told that I will also join you to meet Buddha. But some of those say not very wise people, they're thinking they were wise, and they started advising him. No, it is not the right thing for you to go and meet Buddha. Rather, Buddha should come and meet you because you are great. In that way, they started boasting him. They started prizing him or boasting him. But still, he has his senses. His senses were in balance. So he could defend how Buddha is superior than him. So they started prizing his different qualities, his virtues and qualities, how you are superior, what are your special and superior qualities. And so, because of this reason, the Buddha should come and meet you. It is not you who should go and meet Buddha. In that way, some people, they started condemning him when he decided to go and meet Buddha. The same thing happens to this Kutadanta also. When Kutadanta decides to go and meet Buddha, when Buddha visited his place, Ambalitika, there is a place again. Of course, it's in present day Bihar. So then some people, they started discouraging or rather teasing, rather suggesting him not to go and meet Buddha, rather Buddha should come and meet you. In that way, they were insisting. Both this Kutadanta and also this Sonadanda, of course, in different occasions. So then, how these two gentlemen they could defend their decision, they could condemn their suggestion, the other people's suggestion, how they could defend their decision that they should go and meet Buddha rather than Buddha should come and meet them. So because of wrong views only, people will develop this kind of superiority, inferiority complexes. They are not in a position to judge who is superior, who is inferior because of wrong views. They could not understand the purity, the superiority of the minds of the people. They just see the bodies, they just see the worldly supporting conditions for their body, the worldly subsidiaries, accessories, like their birth, like their wealth, like their lineage, like their physical appearance, maybe sometimes their knowledge, their learning, their knowledge, their their worldly knowledge rather. So these things only and their articulation, how best they can speak. Based on these things only people will decide. So he is superior, he is inferior, based on this. So these so-called superficial things or these worldly things, they don't penetrate into an individual's mind and the purification of the mind and how authoritative he has purified his mind, how nearer he is to enlightenment or how whether he has enlightened or not. So that people generally don't see. They see only the worldly conditions or worldly standards. Based on the worldly standards, they decide a person is superior and a person is inferior. But the people who have some penetration into their minds, they can decide how superior they are, how inferior they are. Though in the worldly things, they look superior, but they knew that they're inferior in the mind purification. That both these gentlemen, the Sonadanda and Kutadanta, they knew they were not superior to Buddha in this so-called path of liberation, path of mind purification, path of understanding the intricacies and the dimensions of the mind, and to come out of these mental defilements. They were not strong enough. They were not authoritative enough. That they knew. To understand this mind's fickleness, mind's defilements like greed, hatred, delusion, jealousy, anger, they have not conquered this. They might have conquered the world. They might have conquered millions of their followers. They might have conquered the worldly pleasures. They might have achieved. They might have obtained a lot of worldly wealth and worldly possessions. They might have got respect from the king's house. But they knew that they have not conquered their mind. So that they say, keep repeating with this ordinary folk that their understanding about superiority is not correct. It is the superiority of handling the mind, purifying the mind. That is the true superiority. So in that matter, they are inferior to Buddha. In that way, they could convince their followers. They could convince the followers. What are these worldly superior things that the other people were highlighting and saying that these two gentlemen, they should not go to Buddha, rather Buddha should go to these gentlemen. What are these worldly things that they were highlighting? Please don't, Master Sonadanda. The same thing with Master Kutadanta also. They were masters also. Of course, they were the masters, teachers of so many people. And they were insisting to their masters, the Sonadanda and this Kutadanta. It is not appropriate for you to go to see the ascetic Gautama. For if you do so, your reputation will diminish and his will increase. If you go and meet him, then his reputation will increase. The people will think more about him, great about him, high about him, and they think less about you, though you should not go. For this reason, it's not appropriate for you to go to see the ascetic Gautama. It is appropriate that he comes to see. You are well born on both your mother's and father's side. What are their reasons? So, in what way they are defending that he is superior? Of course, that is one mean mentality. So, based on that mean mentality, they are defending. They are saying that these people, this Kutadanta and Sonadanda, are superior. What are the parameters that they are indicating that they are superior? Their masters are superior. You are well born on both your mother's and father's side. You have pure descent, irrefutable and impeccable in questions of ancestry back to the 7th paternal generation. So, your paternal generation, back to 7th generation, you have that pure descent. There is no admixture, there is purity in your descent. So that's why you should not go. Gautama should, ascetic Gautama means Gautama Buddha. He should come and see you. And again, what is the second point that they are highlighting? That these people are superior, this Sonadanda and Kutadanta. You are rich, affluent, and wealthy. Again, the physical, the materialistic position. How that ascetic Gautama, he is not having nothing. He has left his empire, he has left his all riches, possessions, materialistic wealth, everything he left. He is nothing now. But you are rich, you are wealthy, you are affluent. So better let him come and see. Again, this is one very, very mean way of looking at who is superior, who is inferior. That's what they were looking, and they were insisting their masters not to go and meet Buddha. And again, the other, what is the next point that they were insisting? You recite and remember the hymns, have mastered the three Vedas together with their vocabularies, ritual, phonology, etymology, and the testament is fifth. You know philology and grammar and are well versed in cosmology and the marks of a great man. You know very well about astrology, cosmology, philology, so many logies. You know 1 million things about this world, about this body, about these things. So you are great. Of course, now this problem is there all the time. Even today also people think, many people they know so many scriptures, so many things. They can recite the things, recite the hymns, or recite a lot of worldly knowledge about this and that, about medicine, about stars, about geography, about plants, about oceans, about future, some astrological things. People will be shocked, will be inspired with that kind of. It's in a way actually according to that very inferior knowledge. So that kind of knowledge you have about so many things, so you are superior. So you should not go and see. And that is one more parameter that they are suggesting about superiority of their masters over Gautama. In both the cases, it's almost same. In both the cases, in this the case of Kutadanta and also Sonadanda. Both of them, as I mentioned in the beginning, they are say inside they knew about their capabilities, their limitations. They were supported by the kings. They were prized by the ordinary people. They were respected by so many people. And of course, they knew a lot of things about the other scriptures and worldly things also. They were well known. But in this authoritative of mind purification, they were not authoritative. They were not clear. They were lacking it. They were lacking in this right view that they knew. Individually, both of them, they knew their limitations. In that way, they are a fool who knows he is a fool is half wise. So that statement holds good for these two people. The other people who are praising them, they are fools indeed because they were not knowing that they were fools. But at least these two people, they were knowing they were fools. So how these other foolish people, they're simply say wooing them about their superiority, their master's superiority, about their knowledge. They have prized whatever the worldly knowledge, whatever so-called spiritual knowledge they considered, but it was not an authoritative spiritual knowledge. Knowing the Vedas, the hymns, or the phonology, philology, cosmology, astrology, all these things are not authoritative way of working on the mind and purifying the mind. So this is only some worldly show off. To some extent it may work, of course, to a minimal extent it may work. In that way, they were highlighting those that inferior knowledge as the superior knowledge, and they were saying that you need not go because you are having this knowledge. Let Gautama come to you. And again, one more parameter. Again, which is one more very inferior parameter. You are attractive, good-looking, lovely, of surpassing beauty. You are magnificent, splendid, remarkable to behold. Even the physical appearance is very inspiring or very appealing for the ordinary folks, for the ordinary people. They think that physical appearance, having say attractive body, attractive appearance, demeanor, complexion. So these things are superior. If you are superior in these things, so that you need not go and let him come. That is one more inferior parameter that they are talking about to show that these two gentlemen, Sonadanda and Kutadanta, are superior and Gautama is inferior. But they knew that this is not the proper parameter of one's greatness. Then again, the other aspect that they mentioned, ordinary folk mentioned, followers mentioned to these two great masters, to these masters is you are a good speaker. No, before that you are ethical, mature in ethical conduct. Your ethical standards are also good. They are following some ethical standards. Though of course not with right view. With some wrong view, they were following the ethical standards, the moral precepts. They were following both of them, both this Kutadanta and this Sonadanda. So you are superior. Then again, one more parameter that they are talking about. You are a good speaker with a polished, clear, and articulate voice that expresses the meaning. Even this articulation is also very, very, say, impressive parameter that people generally get trapped into. Get, say, yeah, that parameter has a tremendous impact on the listener's audience, and the audience will be very inspired by an attractive speaker, by one articulate speaker. So, in that sense, also these two gentlemen, this Sonadanda and this Kutadanta, they were very, very attractive speakers, and they were highlighting this as one very authoritative uh, parameter or the quality of a supreme man or a superior man. But these people, they condemn it. They condemn these things also not superior. You teach, of course, they condemn in the sense they don't completely reject it. Of course, for those things also one needs some merit, but there is something superior to this. In that way, they prove Buddha's superiority over these things. You teach the teachers of many and teach 300 students to recite the hymns. Many students come from various districts and countries for the sake of the hymns, wishing to learn the hymns. You are old, elderly, and senior. Yeah, you are teaching ability and how many disciples you have, that also matters. The worldly standards, that is also one parameter which will determine who is superior, who is inferior. So in that sense also you are superior. You are teaching hundreds of people. And again the age also they bring in as one of the parameters to show one's superiority. You are old, elderly, and senior, advanced in years, and have reached the final stage of life. Ascetic Gautama is young and has newly gone forth. Gautama is quite young, he is 35, 40 years. Maybe yeah, around that age during that time. So you are quite old, you are advanced in age, in years. So you are superior. You need not go. Gautama should come and meet. In that way, they were insisting. To both of them, to both these masters, Sonadanda and Kutadanta. You are honored, respected, revered, venerated, and esteemed by King Bimbisara of Magadha. You are supported, esteemed, honored by this king himself. So you need not go. Let Gautama come. And again, the great Brahmins, the great wise people, very, very great teachers, the renowned teachers, like the great advisors of the king, great ministers, great teachers, like Pokarasati. He was a great advisor and a great teacher at that time. And again, Pokarasati and a few more people also I will tell in some other time. Just like this Sonadanda and Kutadanta, Pokarasati and Dhammapala. Some very wise, very old masters were there. They were also impressed by Buddha and they also became the followers of Buddha. Those things, those stories, I can tell you, I can mention in future discourses. But in today's discourse, let us focus on these two gentlemen, Sonadanda and Kutadanta. And these Sonadanda and Kutadanta were respected by the king, and not just the king, even with the great masters like Pokarasati. That's what the followers of these masters, they were convincing, they were trying to convince how their masters are superior than Gautama. You live in Champa, a crown property given by King Senia Bimbisara of Magadha, teeming with the living creatures, full of hay, wood, water, and grain, a royal endowment of the highest quality. For this reason, too, it is not appropriate for you to go to see Ascetic Gautama. It's appropriate that he comes to see. So you are the local master here, the local, you are supported by the king, and all these things belong to you. When some visitor like Gautama comes, he should come and meet you. It's not advisable for you to go and meet him who is sitting under some tree or in some outside the village or outside the town. It's not appropriate for you to go and see. So the same thing was told by this the followers of Kutadanta. So the followers of Kutadanta, so they, in the same fashion, they tried to convince his master, their master, Kutadanta also, not to go and see. But how these gentlemen, they could convince that the qualities of Buddha are superior than their qualities. Again, they started prizing how Buddha is superior in the birth, He is well born, both his mother's and father's side, and how he is superior in renunciation, in giving up. Though he was a king and he was having a large family circle, renunciating all these things is a great virtue. How Buddha could accomplish that? Nishkamana, like might say, it's a farming. Everybody can't renounce, and Buddha could renounce it. It's a great farming, great virtue of Buddha. And in that way, he is superior to them. That's what this Kutadanta and Sonadanda, they could convince that they are inferior than Buddha. And how he could say give up, abundant wealth, abundant gold coins, abundant bullion stored in dungeons and towers. They were kings. After all, we were not kings, but he was king, and how he could renounce everything. That giving up and giving is great virtue. Or it is not possessing that is great virtue and great quality, and that is not the parameter of superiority. It is the ability to give and give up. That is the parameter of superiority. So in that sense, Buddha is superior. In that way, these two gentlemen could convince their followers that they should go and see Buddha. When he was young itself, most of the time, these other people from the other religions and sects, they give up their family life when they become old, when their hair turns grey, and when their skin starts wrinkling. Then they give up their family life and worldly things. But when he was very young, black-haired, blessed with youth, in the prime of life, he gave up the homely life and he became homeless. He became an ascetic. In that way, he is superior. Though his many relatives and they were so much attached to him, he could give up that attachment. He could take the robes. So in that way, he is superior. And he is attractive, good looking. He is also very superior in his surpassing beauty. He is magnificent. So he is not at all inferior to us. He is quite surpassing in that physical charm also. So in that way, this Kutadanta and Sonadanda, they could convince their followers. And not only we who are ethical, he is also very ethical and noble in his conduct, possessing ethical conduct which is noble and skillful. He has, with the right view, he is practicing the ethical conduct. He is practicing the moral precepts. And he is also a great speaker with a polished, clear, and articulate voice that expresses the meaning. In that way, he is not at all inferior to us, even in his articulation and expression. He is also a great teacher of teachers. It is not only we, not only us who are the teachers and the teachers of teachers. He is also a great teacher of teachers. He has ended sensual desire and is rid of caprice. He has transcended all these worldly sensual attractions and bindings and bondings. We are not so capable, but he has done it. In that sense, also, he is superior. He teaches the efficacy of deeds and action. He doesn't wish any harm upon the community of any learned men, Brahmins, wise men, or whoever it is. He is like he is very, very superior in non-violence, and he is very, very skillful in expressing the efficacy of deeds and action. What action will lead to what kind of result? That kind of law of cause and effect, law of action and reaction. He knows very well. By respecting whom one will be respected, by giving whom what can be given. So in these things, he is very skillful. In that sense, he is superior to us. That way, they are proving that they should go. Why the decision of they should go and meet Buddha is a better decision. Not only people from different countries and different lands, they come and pay obeisance, pay respect to him and learn from him. Even thousands of deities have gone for refuge for life to him. Not only people, even the deities have gone for refuge for Buddha. In that way, he is superior. So that is the point that they are highlighting, both of them, to show that how superior he is and why they should go and meet Buddha. And also these 9 qualities of Buddha. He is a blessed one, perfected one, fully awakened one, accomplished in both knowledge and conduct. Vidya Charana Sampanna. He is holy, knower of the world. Lokavidu. He is the knower of the world. Supreme guide for those who wish to triumph. So Anuttaro Purisadam. So he can tame anybody. He can tame and train anybody. Teacher of gods and humans. Sattadeva Manusan. So he can teach both humans and the divine beings. He is awakened. He is blessed. In that way, they were prizing these two gentlemen, the Sonadanda and this Kutadanta, about the great qualities of Buddha. That's what we chanted in Tiratana also and in the beginning also. Itipiso Bhagavarahan Samma Sambuddho Vidyacharana Sampanno Sugato Lokavidu Anuttaro Purisadam Sarthi. That way, so nine qualities we remember. So these qualities, again, these two gentlemen, they were remembering and they were telling Buddha is having these qualities. So it is better we should go and meet him. He has the 32 marks of a great man. He is not only a great teacher, we know about the qualities or the features or the marks of a great man, but he has those 32 marks of a great man. We know about these 32 marks and other qualities and marks of a great man, but he is having it, he is bearing it, those 32 qualities. That's why he is a Mahapurusha. He has the Mahapurusha features or marks on his body. He is welcoming, congenial, polite, smiling, open, the first to speak. He is honored, respected, revered, venerated, and esteemed by the four assemblies, all the kinds of people, whether they are, say, in the worldly level, the four assemblies of the spiritual assemblies or the worldly assemblies, the people who are inferior in the worldly standards, they also respecting the superior people in the worldly standards, they also respecting. So in that way, everybody they respect him. Many gods and humans are devoted to him. Nobody can harass him, no non-human or the humans can harass him. So he is leading a big order of great ascetics and wise people. In that way, and even King Senya Bimbisara of Magadha, not only King Senya Bimbisara of Magadha, the Bihar king, even the northern UP, that King Pasenadi of Kosala, he also reveres and venerates and has taken refuge in Gautama Buddha. And he and his wives and their children, and not only we are respected by this Pokarasati, the great advisor and Bromine who is supporting these kings. He and his wives and children also have gone for refuge for life to ascetic Gautama. They have also taken refuge in Gautama Buddha. So in that way, they could convince their followers that they are not as superior as Buddha, and it's better they go and learn from Buddha. Okay, so in that way, why I have to give some little bit of explanation about this? People have this kind of wrong view about the superiority and inferiority, and they get stuck in that. If you have wrong view about superiority and inferiority, then considering inferior as superior, you will simply attach to it, simply struggling to get it, and you will end up in no positive or right results. So if you correctly understand what is superior, what is inferior, then taking refuge in the right things like Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha, or in this path of mind purification and enlightenment, it becomes easy for you. So with that intention, I have to explain this, what is superior and inferior things generally people think, and why one should come out of this general thinking, or general idea about superiority and inferiority. Then what happened? This Sonadanda, of course, he could go and meet Buddha, but he was having some kind of hesitation to ask Buddha, because if I ask something wrong, the people may laugh and they may consider me inferior. So that kind of hesitation and doubt was there. And he was thinking in his mind, if Buddha could ask about my specialization, I am well versed in the Vedas and the verses. If Buddha could ask about these things, then I can confidently answer Buddha. Then it would be easy for me to continue my dialogue and conversation with Buddha. That's what he was thinking. Buddha could read his mind. So just to make him comfortable, just to break that ice, the Buddha very skillfully, with compassion, he could ask him in his specialization, in his field. So he asked, how many factors must a Brahmin should possess for the Brahmins to describe him as a Brahmin, and so that when he says I'm a Brahmin, he speaks rightly without falling into falsehood. So in that way, what these Brahminical traditions, they have that knowledge of the 5 qualities of a Brahmin. So that question only Buddha could ask this Sonadanda. And Sonadanda, he felt very happy. Buddha has asked about the subject where I am specialized. I am specialized in this subject. So Buddha could ask, he could read my mind, he could ask the question that I was intended or I was wishing to be asked. So that what Buddha could ask. So he could answer. So about the 5 qualities of a true Brahmin. So what are these 5 qualities? Must possess 5 factors. So what are those? He should speak truthfulness. He should speak true. He should not fall into the trap of falsehood. Then only he is a wise man or a Brahmin or a superior man. In those days, it was the superiority. He is considered as a wise man. So the first quality of a wise man is he should speak truth. He should not fall into the falsehood. And then again, so the right speaking wise person, he should have, just to say that he is speaking right. So he just started the conversation with the power of truthfulness, and then he started explaining. Again, the lineage, he should be well born in his mother's side and father's side. He should be of pure descent. That is the first point. Up to the 7th generation, he should have that pure descent. That is the first point that he has mentioned. The second point is he should mastered in the hymns and the Vedas and phonology, etymology, and all these things. And then he should be skillful in the philology, cosmology. And then that is the second point. The third point is about the attractiveness, the physical attractiveness. He should be good looking, lovely, magnificent, and splendid, remarkable to behold. That is the third point. And the fourth point, he should be ethical and mature in ethical conduct. He should have ethical standards, moral standards also. That is the fourth point. And the fifth one is he should be clever. He should be skillful and clever in conducting all the responsibilities of, say, conducting the sacrifices and conducting the big, the sacrifices, the ceremonies and sacrifices. He should be skillful. So in these 5 factors one should possess. Then he is a Brahmin. He is a wise man. In that way, this Sonadanda he explains. Now, this was the wrong view that Buddha could hit and could strike on this and to highlight what are the best things for a wise person and where he should turn into so that he can become wiser, he can become enlightened. So those things Buddha could explain. So this is what is the point that I wanted to highlight. So don't get trapped into these worldly standards of superiority, which are the indications of enlightenment or wisdom. They are, of course, they are good enough. Your physical attraction, your wealth, your lineage, your good actions, your ability to do the things skillfully, they're all good. But one that is much more superior than these things, that also one should understand. That is what is Buddha highlighting here. And Buddha started explaining. So if you forget about the lineage, if you give up any one of these 5 factors that you mentioned, still is it possible for a person to consider as a wise man? Yes, it is possible. So what is that among these 5? What is that you think that one can ignore? But still remaining 4 factors also will make a person, a Brahmin, a superior person, a wise man. So then he says, there is no need to stick on to the lineage. There is no need to stick on to the affluence, the wealth. One factor he started giving up. Buddha started appreciating, yes, without having good lineage also one can become a superior man. Without having wealth and affluence also one can become a superior man. One can become a superior man without having the knowledge of, say, hymns, speaking out the hymns. One can become a superior man. Even without the physical attraction, physical demeanor, one can become a superior man. So in that way, he could convince by asking him questions. He only, this Sonadanda only, he could say one one need not depend so much on this factor. He should have ethical conduct and he should have this inquisitiveness to purify the mind. These are the two aspects that will determine superiority of person. In that way, he could be convinced by Buddha. Buddha could convince this Sonadanda that these things are superior. The aspiration to purify the mind and to liberate the mind is a superior virtue, a superior quality, which should be respected more than any other, more than anything else. This aspiration to purify the mind and develop the mind and having the right faith in those things which represent this purification and liberation of the mind, that is the right faith, that is the right aspiration, and that will decide, that will make a person superior. So that's what is the final agreement, final understanding of this Sonadanda after listening to Buddha. Of course, it is a long discourse where Buddha could convince about this point. This is the point. What is that? All these physical attraction, the wealth and the lineage, but these are not the major factors that make a person superior. It is your ethical conduct, correctly understanding. Ethical conduct will support mind purification. Your these different punya kriyas and parmis that I again and again mentioned. Your ability to give and give up, your generosity, your generous mind, your moral mind, and all these generous mind and moral mind is to cultivate the mind, purify the mind, to say collect all the impurities of the mind and to destroy them. This generosity and morality will help. This dana, shila, bhavana, apachayana, all these 10 meritorious actions, this wholesome punya kriyas, and the parmis, this dana, shila, satya, panya, all these parmis and punya kriyas. Buddha is indirectly he is making them to understand and to know this right view of mind development and mind purification, and this right view of mind purification and mind development. That is the parameter for superiority, and other things are not the parameters of superiority. So that's what is the conclusion of the sutta, that was the discourse given to this Sonadanda. And the discourse given to this Kutadanta, there, what is the wrong view that was explained by Buddha that has to be abandoned by this Kutadanta is the sacrifice. So they were planning to have one big sacrifice for the welfare of the country. So in the sacrifice, there is no need to kill the animals. What is there to be killed? Your own defilement should be killed. What are the things that has to be sacrificed? Your defilements, your mental impurities should be sacrificed. And again, what is the way to sacrifice your mental impurities? By practicing this non-hoarding, non-jealousy, non-anger, non-possessiveness, and understanding this. Chitana person understanding how the thoughts arise and how the defilements will lead to the arising of thoughts, the meditations. So these wholesome actions and perfections, parmis and perfections, and these meritorious actions, the punya kriyas, they only will lead to the mind purification, the mind liberation. It's the sacrificing of your mental defilements. They only will indicate, will make you a superior person, not otherwise. That's what is the message given to this Kutadanta by Buddha. By giving, of course, one previous life story of Buddha himself, this Mahajivita one. Then Buddha was a Bodhisattva and was a great king. When he was a great king, he too wanted to conduct this sacrificial ceremony where he wanted to kill so many animals, sacrifice so many animals. But instead of that, the wise man, again, the Bodhisattva, it's not Mahajivita, one wise man, one wise minister suggested this Mahajivita not to go for this sacrificing, killing of animals. If at all, if you want to sacrifice your greed, sacrifice your ambition of becoming a great king or having this vast empire. So that kind of ambitions you should sacrifice, that kind of greed you should sacrifice, that kind of violence mind of killing animals you should sacrifice. So for that, how skillfully you can protect people, You can practice morality precepts and encourage people to practice precepts and encourage people to become generous by giving simply whatever they want and simply encouraging their greed. That is not the best way to protect the subjects, protect the people. Encouraging them to become skillful, generous, moral, meditative, practicing these meritorious actions. That is the best way to rule the subject. That is the best way to protect the subjects. That way, by quoting, by say, remembering one of the previous lives where a lesson is there on which is a great sacrifice. The Buddha could explain to this Kutadanta about the right sacrifice. Simply killing the animals in the name of sacrifices, in the name of protecting the world, that is not the best thing. So that will simply make the people more dull, more blind. That's what is happening here in Nepal also. I heard once in 5 years, I think they kill millions of lakhs of buffalo, sheep, thinking that it will protect the country. But instead of protecting the country, people are becoming more and more dull. They're developing more and more wrong views. They can't come out of wrong views. And even the nature will not support, their minds will not support. The divine beings also will not support such dull-minded or say the greedy people or the hateful people. So in that way, you will not be protected in any way. So wise king should always encourage the subjects to develop in these punya kriyas and karmas, to develop in this art of giving and art of giving up, and art of purifying the mind. That is the best way to protect the subjects, protect the place, protect the. That is the right way of sacrifice also, which will protect the country. In that way, Buddha could correctly put their intelligence, their understanding of sacrifice in the right track in the case of Kutadanta. So in that way, these two wrong views were addressed by Buddha in the stories or in the discourses and dialogues with this Sonadanda and this Kutadanta. The background is same about these two people. They were gentle and they were inquisitive. They were looking for superior wisdom and the way to purify their minds. Though their followers were simply trapping them, simply wooing them, simply trying to pull them to some inferior parameters. But because of the grace of Buddha, they could come out of that kind of inferior parameters and they could take refuge in the Dhamma and they could become enlightened people. So that is the power of these three expressions of enlightenment, the right view enlightenment. So having right faith in this Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha and coming out of this strong views becomes easy. Understanding what is right sacrifice, wrong sacrifice. In case of Kutadanta, with right view, sacrifice your defilements, not sacrificing or killing animals. That is the right view taught by Buddha. And in the case of this Sonadanda, so what is taught to them? The qualities or the indicators of superiority is not your physicality, physical superior things, or the societal superior things. It is the mental, integrated approach to purify the mind that will determine one's superiority. That is the teaching given to this Sonadanda. So in that way, the two wrong views which are carried by these two gentlemen were removed by Buddha. So, of course, the background of both these two gentlemen is there. So I brought in the stories of both these people to explain about the importance of right view, importance of this art of giving, importance of these punya kriyas, importance of these paramits. Without fulfilling these things, you don't expect your progress in meditation, progress in mental purification. Mental purification is your ability to give and give up. That's all. I am telling you authoritatively. So many people might have trapped you, or they might have trying to trap you in do this, without fixing the selfishness, without fixing the possessiveness, without fixing the defilements of the mind. By understanding the defilements of the mind, by knowing them, by being aware of them, and practicing these different techniques of fixing the defilements, which are nothing but your punya kriyas and karmas, you can't progress. It's an authoritative and statement from our side that if you don't work on these things, you can't progress. So that's what is the message of this today's Dhamma talk. So with this, we will conclude. So if you have one or two questions, big questions, you can ask. Then we can leave. Okay, any questions?
Vandami Bhante ji.
Yeah.
Shruti Joshi is asking how to maintain right view and right faith forever.
How to maintain?
Yes.
Yeah, but repeatedly listening to the different dimensions or different ways of perceiving and understanding right view and right faith, and by applying them in the life, by listening to them, by understanding them, analyzing them, and by applying them in the life, and having, of course, a right association and right dependence, right authority, right association, right practice, repeatedly listening to different aspects of right view and right faith. All these means one can establish in these things and develop in these things for the entire life. Okay, next question.
There is no any other question. Everyone is greeting and showing their gratitude.
Be a little louder.
There is no other questions. Everyone is showing their gratitude.
Okay, fine. So we'll conclude with one small chant. Sadhu, sadhu for their say acceptance of this and rejoicing of this Dhamma. And now we'll conclude with one small chant. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa bhavatu sabba mangalam rakkantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sabba dhammanubhavena sabba sanghanubhavena sada swati bhavantu te sukhi bhaveyan nidukho aham nitya aham viya idacha me sukhi bhavantu madhyata chatavedino imam higammante dhamme sattavantu sukhi sada tato parancharajesu chakkavale sujantano. Sadhu, sadhu. May all of you be happy, healthy, and peaceful. May all beings also be happy.